How is it going beyond the benches? It is your man JT, and I know it's been a minute since I made a video. I believe the last one was after the Bills game, but just things busy popping up. I wanted to make a video before the postseason to kind of give my thoughts and predictions there. Didn't happen, but we're here now to address the 2018 NFL Draft with my mock draft 2.0. In case you're wondering, I usually come out with 5. I usually come on with late in the NFL season, after the NFL season, around combine, free agency time, maybe one more for fun, and then usually the week of the draft, I come out with my final one, my big boy mock draft. But right now I'm still kind of seeing what the draft looks like, what it holds, and still getting my thoughts on some of these players. I want to do some more studying and some more film work than I've done in years past. The last couple of years I started to, but this year I want to try and get to maybe about half of the prospect, which is about 300 guys, 400 guys to look up. We'll see how that goes. If I do that, I'll probably come out with maybe some scouting report videos, my thoughts on some players, blah, 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 stuff like that. But as far as this mock draft, I'm just going to make it a quick video for y'all. The entire mock draft will be down in the description below. Feel free to ask about any of the picks. But let's get into this. Quarterbacks. I have quarterbacks going number 1 and number 2. However, it is Josh Allen going number 1 to Cleveland. Josh Rosen going number 2 to the Giants. The buzz I've heard is that Josh Allen could go number 1 overall to Cleveland. He seems to be a fit, as a big body, big arm quarterback that perhaps Cleveland could like. And he is seen as the guy who has the most upside, potentially, of the quarterbacks for a lot of scouts. Also seen as kind of a boom or bust prospect, but obviously if you're Cleveland, you might have to kind of take that chance and hope that this is somebody who could be really, really good. Personally, I'm not concerned about playing for Wyoming or anything like that. We've seen Carson Wentz come out of North Dakota State, and a lot of quarterbacks come from small schools. Some of the passing yards only about 1,800 this past year. I would that would be a little more concerning, the 52% completion rate. But the guy does have tremendous natural ability. Josh Rosen, to me, though, is the number 1 quarterback in this draft. He's the most pure guy. He's already expressed that he would be interested in playing for the Giants, so perfect pick right here. Number 6, Sam Darnold goes to the Jets, and this would be a great pick for the Jets. If Sam Darnold fell to them at number 6, it would give them a quarterback with a lot of upside. Yes, he had kind of a disappointing year, but he also had a lot of expectations going into this year. Perhaps expectations that were just a little too much to live up to. But the Jets still get a quarterback that they can work with and build the future with. Now, my 4th quarterback going in the first round is Baker Mayfield. Not a surprise, but he is going all the way at number 27 to the Pittsburgh Steelers. This is already a guy who there's questions whether or not he fits the NFL game. And there were some questions about maturity, about his personality would be a little too much. And of course, a lot of people probably have heard this past week where he had an incident where he's tweeting or live streaming with Kenny Stills, and he talks about getting drafted by Miami, and now that's all over the place. And so again, I think that's just another thing that teams are going to look at and go, is this just a guy who maybe isn't quite there, that maybe the off-the-field antics are a little bit too much, probably small stuff. I think Baker Mayfield has a tremendous arm. I think he has great leadership skills, and I don't think anybody questions those things. But when you talk about some of the, play style concerns from his days in college, and now some of these antics, I wonder if he's not going to fall in the draft. So that's why I have him where I do. Running backs, I have 3 running backs getting drafted: Saquon, Barkley, Damien Harris, and Darius Geis. I think at least 2 running backs are going to get drafted in the first round. Obviously, Saquon will, but I think Damien Harris could be a guy to look out for. I have him going, I believe, 14 to the Packers. I think he's going to have a really good offseason, good combine, and he's a guy who could shoot up from that 2nd, 3rd round conversation into the 1st round conversation quite easily. Wide receiver, I also have a few. Calvin Ridley going to the Niners. Give them a wide receiver for Jimmy Garoppolo. Courtland Sutton to the Redskins. I have the Bills picking up a wide receiver as well. So I think about maybe 3, 4 wide receivers, give or take, go in the first round. The wide receiving core isn't as good as it's been in the past, But I said that about last year's draft, and we still had about, I think, like 3 of the first 15 picks were wide receivers. So teams still like themselves the chance to get, an elite pass catching, an elite number 1, number 2 wide receiver. Offensive line, I think it's a fine draft. I have about 3 or 4 guys going here. Nobody seems to be a truly dominant option other than Queston Nelson, who some people may say when they look at this draft, number 5 to the Broncos, way too high. But look, if you knew in the top 10, even though you should be looking for a tackle, but if you knew you were getting a Zach Martin, if you knew you were getting, one of these Hall of Fame guards, would you take him? Yes, you probably would. And Queston Nelson is a guy who is seen as can't miss. Just everybody is beyond confident that he will be an elite guard in the NFL. If you're the Denver Broncos, right now I think they address their quarterback need through free agency, either Kirk Cousins or maybe a Vikings quarterback, something like that. So then it would probably be a smart idea to come back in the draft, get him some protection. As far as the defense, I think there's a lot of interesting options when it comes to defense in this draft, but nothing seems elite. There's no Jadeveon Clowney, no Myles Garrett, no can't-miss prospect, no Jalen Ramsey. There's a lot of B guys. And even late into the first round, I was giving teams defensive players that I really liked. But, so I think the depth is fine, but again, not as many A's on defense. If I was giving grades out, a lot more B's, C's, and D's throughout this draft. Doesn't mean you can't find defensive talent, but, probably first, second round, your team's probably going to want to go offense. That's where you're going to find, the players you're in love with. Again, obviously a Bradley Chubb, a Derwin James, Minkah Fitzpatrick. Those are very solid players, deserving of top 10, top 12 picks. But, again, just nothing truly elite. Cornerback, you could go Fitzpatrick and Josh Jackson, and after that, nothing really to get excited about. Linebackers, there's Roquan Smith, who I think is just excellent and would be a great pro. And there's a few other options, but again, it gets very very quickly. So, I think that's obviously something that holds this draft back. I think the last couple of drafts were stronger on defense, no doubt. But again, there is also time. There's Senior Bowls and Pro Days and Combines. Perhaps a couple of guys could change my mind. Obviously, I haven't watched all of these players yet, so that's another thing to keep in mind as I say that. Perhaps, I might watch a couple of guys' highlights or their films and go, hey, maybe these guys are pretty solid pros. But let me know what you guys think about this draft. Again, just a real simple video mock draft down below. This is number 2. Again, I will probably have about 5. And until then, I'll see you guys around.